This week on The Real Housewives of Atlanta.
I could not believe my eyes.
Yeah, that's
it.
a far.
No, it ain't too far, bitch. She threatened with me with a gun. Don't tell me it's too far.
I am mortified.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the new episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 16, Episode 5. I'm still a little speechless, so let's get right into this. You guys, this was the infamous episode that we've been anticipating for like about a year now. It's everything we've been talking about for the past year, ever since we knew what had happened. So we're going to get through the episode and then I'm going to give you my thoughts because we got to talk, okay? Alright, so the episode opens up with Angela going over to Shamea's house. Shamea had invited her last week at Angela's dinner. Shamea apologized to her for, having some little shady comments. She felt bad about it, and she also had given her an olive branch. And Angela accepted, so this is like a new beginning for them, so that's really nice. So then Brit comes over as well. This was actually the day after, right after Angela's dinner. Angela says things got so bad that even the owner of the restaurant had given her a complaint. Damn, that's crazy. Brittany apologizes, and then she talks about what happened last night. Brit says Kenya kept interrupting her. We then find out that the person that wrote that question that Brittany read for Kenya was actually written by Angela. That's good to know, because I definitely wanted to know, because at first I was thinking that Brittany might have written that herself, but no, Angela admits that she wrote it. Brit then says that she doesn't want anyone to think that she was trying to intimidate Kenya, or think that she wanted to hurt her in any way. Shamea says, well, you're going to have to tell her that, because that's definitely what she probably thinks and what it sounded like. Brit says, I get that. I'm going to do everything I can to truly make it up to her, because that's not me. That's not who I am. I would never do that. Shamea then asks Angela, did she end up asking Charles about anything? Because remember, at the dinner, Porsha made a comment saying, I heard something about Charles, even though she didn't want to tell us, which I think is kind of whack. But Angela pretty much says, I'm married to a celebrity. People are going to say stuff. It's not a big deal. All right, moving on. Porsha and Kelli go over to Kenya's salon. Good vibes between the three of them. Porsha and Kenya in particular are in such a great place as opposed to the other places that they've been in before. They really were going to get along this season. Kenya did bring her security, which I totally understand. So the three of them then sit and they watch several models that Kenya's going to have for the event for her spa. So they look at that, and then Kenya says that she's super excited, a little nervous. She did invite everyone at the dinner before things had gone south, and they talk about that dinner, how things got. So Porsha admits that Brit took things way too far. She was already doing too much at the table, but adding that pistol comment outside was extreme and unexcusable, just deplorable. Kelli then kind of tries to stick up for Brittany. She says that's not who Brit is. She's usually not like that. Kenya didn't want to hear it, and I don't blame her. Like, I wouldn't want to hear it either. Like, girl, bye with that. Porsha says, we need to confirm what she said. And Kenya says, oh, no, I know what I heard. And I'm going to do a background check. Okay. In the next scene, Angela and her daughter, Amari, go out to a nice coffee shop. Amari's father was killed when she was only 7 years old. That's really sad. Okay, so Amari talks to Angela and asks, why isn't her grandma there? So apparently she was supposed to be there, but there's been a little bit of a problem. So Amari tells Angela that she went over to her grandma's house and she was going to use the car that Angela bought for her, for Amari's grandma, Angela's mom. But apparently they wanted money from Amari. Before she knows it, her aunt, aka Angela's sister, got in her face and started calling her a demon and all this type of crazy stuff. Angela doesn't like hearing this. She has supported her mom a lot financially and even bought her a house. She says that her mom was diagnosed with bipolar, so that adds another layer to it. And, Angela's a little in a bad situation. She wants to support her mom, but obviously at this point she's gonna have to defend her daughter. Like, that must be something that no one wants to be in. Like, your own mother and your own child are having problems. That is very, very bad. But this gets more interesting. Angela then brings up that her daughter Amari got married and that she's been married for about 4 months. But Angela didn't know this. She found out through the grandmother. What? Listen, it sounds like there is a lot of drama in this family. How you married and you didn't tell your mom, but your grandmother no? I don't know. It's a mess. It's a mess. So the next scene is Porsha and Brit. Brit was giving Jennifer Williams vibes with this nice little hat. Porsha asks her what happened. I didn't know you and Kenya had any beef. And Brittany says, well, I didn't either, but when we are in group settings, she's very shady and she's very nasty with her delivery. And this is where I'm going to have to disagree with Brit. We've seen Kenya be nasty. Listen, we've seen Kenya be real nasty to Phaedra, Porsha, Kim Fields. But with Brit, she really hasn't. I mean, unless we haven't seen something. But what we've seen on the show, based on what we've seen on the show, Kenya hasn't been nasty. So that's where I disagree with Brit. Porsha thinks that Brit has preconceived notions about Kenya. Maybe she wanted a problem. I agree with that. That makes sense. Porsha then brings up the pistol comment. And Brit tries to explain it. She says that she was in the heat of the moment. Porsha says that pretty much it was wrong. But Brit is not disagreeing with her. She actually agrees and she takes accountability. She says that she was not going to ever hurt her, obviously, but she will apologize for making her feel like she was threatened. She really does want to move forward. Listen, she did say she was wrong. She said it multiple times, I was wrong, and she wants to take full accountability. So then we move forward to another scene at the Oakley house. Charles is cooking some wings that looked so good. Angela is getting ready for Kenya's event, and then she mentions the comment Porsha made about him, about what she heard, and Charles was pretty much like, who? She doesn't even know me. She's barking at the wrong tree. Google me. Nothing is, they're not saying anything about me. It is not a joking matter. Okay, Charles, let them know. Angela also tells them about the issues with her mom, but Charles doesn't want to hear nothing about it. He wants no parts of the drama. And Angela also said that Charles himself doesn't even talk to Angela's mom or sister. It makes me wonder, what is her family like? It's a lot of issues. Okay, moving on. So Kenya's event is beginning. She looked great. I loved the purple. Her hair looked nice. And a lot of these outfits look familiar because we've seen the pictures of that night of what happened before the scandal. So I feel like it's interesting to see it now being played on the show. So people are arriving. Cynthia feels very proud. There were some influencers there. Kenya walked out. She acted like it was a red carpet. They were doing lots of interviews. We see Miss Lawrence. There was a lot of nostalgia in this episode. They played a lot of flashbacks. Okay, so Brit and Kelli are on their way. Kelli has a whole sprinter, by the way. It's convenient. She has her bodyguard. We already know why. Brit came bearing gifts. She brought flowers and a card because she really wants to make things right by Kenya. Brittany then also shares with Kelli that she's going through a lot this week. Her aunt just had a stroke. Her dad's sister. So, remember, her dad also passed away. So, it's a really sad situation. Kelli then tells her about the conversation she had with Kenya. And Brit again says, I'm sorry, I was wrong. So, I hope that she receives my apology. So at the event, everybody is inside. There's about 4 ladies that came in with these over-the-top illusionary hairstyles. It was a bit of a competition to see who was the most impressive. And then after that, they're kind of just all chatting and socializing a bit at the salon. I had forgotten that Cynthia wasn't in attendance at Angela's dinner, so she doesn't really know what happened. So Porsha and Shamea are filling her in on what happened. And Porsha says, yeah, she took it to the next level. She mentioned she had a pistol. The problem is you don't say that when you're in an argument. That's what makes it bad. Kenya then personally thanks Angela because Angela was the only one who reached out to her after that night. Everybody's sort of wondering if Brit is coming, And then she does. She arrives, and the girls are like, oh, well, I mean, she wasn't uninvited, so we don't know. Drew then makes her way around to Porsha. It was a little awkward, but Drew says to Porsha, listen, Porsha, I'm going through a divorce. I'm not messing with Dennis. I'm not doing anything to you. This whole thing is dumb. Like, let's get over it. And Porsha, she didn't really want to hear it. She then says to Drew, are you done? Drew, you gotta use your common sense, okay? Like, make a phone call. Do common sense things that you should be doing. Drew says, well, we did have a conversation. Drew started to get a little snappy. Now, granted, Porsha was already a little snappy too, but at this point, they were just both very combative, so Porsha just walks away. She just leaves the conversation. Drew is claiming that they were supposed to meet each other to talk about it, but Porsha says that she had gotten sick and then she didn't reschedule because at that point she had found out that Drew was doing even more shady things that she didn't know. So that's a whole other thing. So Kenya eventually comes down because she was in her office for a while. Brittany gets her flowers and says, hey Kenya, I wanted to apologize. I brought you these flowers. But Kenya ignores her. She doesn't even acknowledge that she's there. So Brittany is like, okay, I guess that's goodbye for me. So she says goodbye to everyone and she leaves. Kenya then gets on the floor and starts making a speech about the salon, how much this means to her, how much it means because of her daughter. Then she brings up that she had a dinner recently with a woman that was trying to have a moment and comfort her. Now, at this point, like I said, Brittany has left the building, but Kenya is inside giving her a little speech, and she says, this woman brought me these flowers. Matter of fact, somebody get rid of this. Get rid of this. I don't want these flowers. Give them away. Burn that card. She needs to understand that I am that bitch. Been that bitch. I am that bitch. I'm going to pay her dust. She's dust. She says, this woman mentioned that she had a gun. And I wanted to figure out who she was. So then Kenya grabs a poster board and says, so who is this hoe? So the first poster seemed to have pictures of Brit and other pictures, maybe some like before and after pictures. We're not sure because they were blurred. She then grabs a second poster and says, she used to be a video hoe. Look at her. So at this point, Kelli decides to walk out. It's a little bit too much for her. She's not feeling it, so she leaves. Kenya continues. She basically had a slideshow, but with posters. She then holds a third poster, and we get this statement from Bravo. And we hear Cynthia say, we don't want to see a picture of a girl sucking a dick. Wow. Shamea says, Kenya, that's too far. And Kenya says, no, she mentioned a gun. Don't tell me it's too far. Porsha walks away too. Everybody was disgusted. Cynthia was disgusted. Shamea was disgusted. Porsha was disgusted. It was too much. Outside, Angela says that she feels bad because she had encouraged Brit to apologize. And this is just, no one would have ever imagined this was going to happen today. Inside, Cynthia says to Kenya, I think you're better than this. Congratulations, but I have to go. Outside, Porsha says, like, who would do this in public in front of other people? She then asks production to please turn the cameras off. And then Bravo puts out this statement regarding Kenya. Ooh, that was a lot, you guys. Okay, so let's talk about it. I want to make a few things very clear. The first thing that I want to make clear is that last week, and y'all can go back to watch my video, I made it explicitly clear, no and, ifs, or buts. I was very clear that what Brit said about guns and whips was 100% unacceptable, deplorable, dangerous, and it was just not okay at all. There's no excuse from her. Now, with that being said, let's keep that in mind. Kenya was also wrong, and I'm glad that she was let go. I've personally never been a Kenya Moore fan because of the way she's come at other women, and I think that she's done things that just go very, very low. But tonight took it to a whole other level. Yes, Brittany was wrong, but if you felt threatened by somebody, if your first instinct is to antagonize them even further, there's something wrong with you. Who does that? If Kenya was legitimately afraid, if she was, if she felt threatened, she would have pulled the Giselle. Remember what Giselle did to Monique? I don't want to film with her. I'm going to have a bodyguard. I'm going to go to Bravo. But no, Kenya decided to take it even lower. And think about it this way. Brittany said something bad. Kenya did something bad. Her actions were 100% unacceptable. And this is why I was very weary of really saying much last week, because I saw a lot of people, you know how people are in social media, they rush to give their comments. They don't wait. I saw so many people saying, Kenya's vindicated. Kenya did nothing wrong. This just shows that the network is doing wrong by Kenya. No. First of all, let's be very clear. People, get a dictionary or go to the internet and search up the word vindicated. Vindication means that it's proven that you didn't do something. Kenya wasn't vindicated because she did do what she was accused of. That's not vindication. Having a quote unquote right to do something, that's not what vindication means, people. So no, Kenya Moore was not vindicated. We didn't see the picture, but based on what Cynthia said, that it was a woman performing fellatio, under Georgia code, that is a crime. You cannot do that. Even if those pictures were already on the internet, you still cannot distribute it. And that's what people need to understand. So I don't know why so many people have such a hard time understanding why Kenya was let go. It's pretty clear. Now, should Brit have been let go? Oh, yeah, that's a conversation we can have, but let's not conflate the two things. Kenya just took it so low to the point where she got fired, and now look at her. Now she's been fired. She's not on the show full time. And what I think is just so sad is how much she was talking about that salon. Ever since last week, she was in tears talking about the significance of this salon to her legacy of building this empire for not just herself, but for her daughter. This was supposed to be a representation of everything that she's going to do for her daughter. And in 5 seconds, she took it all away. What was supposed to be a beautiful event turned into her not being on the show anymore. Wow. That is just unbelievable. You guys, please let me know what your thoughts were about this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.